Hello, everybody. I'm Dr. Jun. Expand your awareness. We have been talking about from the day one, from episode one, the cause of a disease and mind-body connection, how this mind really projecting or experiencing to the physical suffering. So we're really putting those two pieces together, that why we suffer, come from that downward position from the psycho, neuro, endoimmunology in the neuroscientific words. And we went through many of this explanation and decoding through the experts in the previous episodes. So today we have another amazing, brilliant expert, Dr. Pratibha. She's an internationally renowned Ayurveda expert, and her pioneering initiative in the field of Ayurveda have brought her to attention at the White House, the Department of Health and Human Services, as well as the Consulate General of India in New York City. So Dr. Pratibha was also nominated in the top 20 Women of the Year for the year 2014. And she is a founder and president of two nonprofit organizations. Welcome, Dr. Pratibha, and thank you for joining us, and thank you for sharing your expert on the Ayurveda medicine. So please guide us. Thank
Thank you, Dr. June. Pleasure to be here with you, having a conversation.
Absolutely. Really, we are here to empower people, guide people towards really great healing so people can have a joyful, happy in lifestyle, isn't it?
Absolutely. That's what we are passionate about.
Yes, absolutely. I know that Ayurveda medicine has been existing for thousands of years. So could you kind of guide us? What's the brief history of the Ayurveda medicine and then where this ancient wisdom can connect with the modern science and modern medicines?
Absolutely. So, Ayurveda has originated in the Indian subcontinent area geographically and roughly about 5,000 plus years old historically. And it is a system of life, I like to say. It's not just a medical science, it's a science of life itself, because Ayurveda guides us how to live life on a day to day basis, as well as in synchrony with the environment, with the universe, and also guides us in different tools of self care, and lot of resources and guidelines about how to live daily, how to live seasonally, how to change things in different phases of our lives. We are not always the same. Our childhood to adulthood is different, adulthood is different, and then our golden years or sunset years are different. Our physiology is different. Our energetics in the body are different. Elemental dominances are different. So it's a very um, grassroots wisdom science which has guidelines, resources, tools for pretty much all phases and aspects of our lives. But also, if you fall sick, then there are vast therapeutics that can help um, counter the imbalance that has led to the disease. So it is a very rich life science, I would say, that has stood the test of time. And Ayurveda is considered to be one of the world's most ancient, continuously practiced systems of medicine or health science, as I would like to call it, because it's much more than medicine. And to answer your second part of the question, how does it? Did you ask how does it compare with modern science or?
Yeah, modern science or modern medicine, how this Western allopathic medicine start taking place, because ancient wisdom has been around for centuries, 1,000 years. Now, in the last probably a couple hundred years, shifts start happening, and then the whole lifestyle, like you said, life science perspective of ancient wisdom that we really care about in tune to nature, in tune with the lifestyle, and the relationship, all that beautiful wisdom that we have, then kind of strange shift happened in the last couple hundred years. And then it's the beauty of this, really knowing what really body made out of, really beautiful science, the modern science that able to dissect into the inside of the body and then looking at the molecule. I mean, this is an amazing emergence. But how this, heading towards the Western medicine, to, modern science, but then yet now feels like a shift happening to going back to the ancient wisdom. Go- because you have a both background, so I like to kind of see the bridge between those two sides.
That's a very good question. So, what happened with the advent of penicillin was that there was kind of a miracle drug on the horizon. Like, people that were dying from a particular infective diseases were no longer dying because of them, because of this miracle drug on the horizon, right? With the advent of penicillin, a lot of infective diseases which were a death sentence were no longer a death sentence. So there was a kind of um, a shift in the way people and as well as the medical world were looking at diseases and disease management, and that has, over the years it has become um, um, it has developed into what we call Western medical science, where more and more the focus has progressively become on on the disease, not health. You know,
I like the word disease versus health. Yes.
yes, and that's really profound if we think about it, because health and disease are really two very different things. Absence of disease is not health. So, gradually but surely, the focus started to shift towards disease and disease management rather than maintaining our health, protecting our health, promoting our health, which were the wisdom practices. Also reflected in Ayurveda and other wisdom sciences like traditional Chinese medicine, etc. So that happened, and then as a society, as a people, we started to become uh, people of, who preferred convenience and everything, quick solution, quick fix for things. So as a society, we started to become different. We were more outwardly focused over the past decades rather than inwardly focused, very much centered towards the human species. We lost the connection of living in tandem with our environment, with our fellow species, with our universe, and then the healthcare system itself has evolved, transformed to become a. It's like a giant. I almost wanted to call it a monster, but because uh, the reason the word monster came to mind, and probably I'll avoid using it, but let's use the word giant. But the healthcare system has become like that giant being that has nudged out the patient itself. The patient is not part of the equation anymore. It's the other players, the insurance, the pharmas, and the other profit-making agencies that are have become like the giants. So the patient is no longer the center of care. So all of these things have been happening parallelly, and they have had uh, you know, um, their impact on how we live today, how we live as individuals, how we live as a society, and therefore how we feel. Do we feel whole or we don't feel whole? Because all of this mind, mental well-being, the emotional well-being, the spiritual well-being, these are not subjects of discussion anymore in a healthcare meeting. It's more about what are your lab readings, what is your BMI, what are your vitals. So we are, as you can see, progressively we are more focused on the physical body and nothing else. So all of these things have led to us becoming very disconnected with who we are, and what is our connection with our immediate uh, surroundings and environment. So the individual of the 21st century is a disconnected one, so and that has its repercussions on how whole we feel on an ongoing basis. And that leads to the disease process that kind of, contributes to the laying the groundwork for disease or imbalance in the, entity that we are, the whole entity, not just the body, but the mind, body, spirit, emotions, etc. So, yeah, the Western medicine has kind of gone in a certain direction of just addressing people or encountering individuals only when they are sick. There is no interaction when they are healthy, and no resources or guidelines for people to remain healthy. And when I say healthy, it's not just the BMI I'm talking about. There's enough,
Yes.
information, education about that. I'm talking about so many other things. I mean, just if we take one example, to live seasonally, how many people know that? People don't know, like, I'll give you an example. Sometimes clients come to me and I'm taking their um, typical day in life, and, how do they eat, how do they live, what are their activities, etc. And so many times it's very common to hear that, for example, when they're traveling and they're in a hotel, and there is this buffet breakfast in the morning, and in December there is watermelon and other summer fruits, and nobody's thinking, now is it even seasonal to be having this kind of fruit? And people are having these kind of fruits which are like cooling in the night. People are continuing to drink smoothies throughout the winter, and this sort of very basic disconnect is very typical of the modern ways of living, and it's symbolic of so many bigger disconnects in our lives in the 21st century. So it's not just the modern medicine, it's the modern way of living, which is very disconnected on so many levels with ourselves. We are disconnected with ourselves. We are not listening to what our body, our mind is trying to signal to us, to trying to speak with us. We're always outwardly focused. What is everybody else doing? What is popular? What is in? What is trending? Rather than listening to our body, what is the body telling me? Am I feeling comfortable with what you're doing? It speaks, but are we listening? That's the question. So we are not listening to ourselves. We are not listening to our Mother Earth, our fellow species. So it's a very, very different uh, society and way of living in the 21st century. So there's a lot of turning around, course correction that, people like you and, all of us, hopefully we can bring about that awareness, because it's all within us. We are built, uh, we are constructed, we are made in a way that we have this inherent wisdom in us to sync with the universe. So it's a very inward living. We need to help people to again expand and open with the bigger universe, and that's a very expanded way of living. It's a beautiful way of living, because otherwise it's a very narrow and restricted way of living, where we are very much centered around us, and in our conveniences. Everything needs to be available to us. We don't stop to think, how is there so much animal protein in the market? It's not normal, right? It's not normal to have so many chickens in every grocery store: chicken, turkey, fish, beef, whatever, pork. And, during my MPH, when I was doing my master's in public health, we were shown some sting videos. And we have seen how the CAFOs, what is the condition of so many, places where these cattle and animals are bred, and horrible conditions. So when it comes to your plate in the form of a salami, or some other processed form of meat, or even raw meat, means frozen meat that you buy for consumption, for cooking yourself, we have stopped to think, how is it possible for so much meat to be there, and what is the background story to that, and what does it mean for our health? It's not just protein, it's along with that protein, what else are we putting in our body? The glyphosates in the soil. I can just go on and on. And I always say this, that the microbiome of our earth is being stripped. And that's why our microbiomes are no longer whole, because that's the stripped microbiome we are ingesting. So
Yes, we're in a co-ecosystem. If you destroy outside, you're destroying within yourself, isn't it?
exactly, exactly. And that's the awareness. I think it's so beautiful if we can bring about that awareness, because that awareness can guide so much just with that awareness. You don't need anything else. Once you wake up that awareness of, we are not just us, we are part of a bigger whole. And unless the rest of the whole is healthy, clean, and thriving, and is vital, is full of prana, what we call prana, which is vital energy, which we have depleted throughout the planet. So those things, that expansion of our awareness is the need of the hour, because that alone can drive a lot of positive changes, a lot of positive shifts for not just us, for the entire planet. Because unless our Mother Earth is healthy and thriving and, vital, we cannot be those things. So this interconnectedness, this is what I have recently been talking about, is the interconnectedness versus the disconnectedness, and we need to bring back that interconnectedness, that awareness.
Yes, I love it. You summarized so well. I love every single word you spoke about it. It is like a right spot on. This is we love to really broadcast right to the really global scale in the community to bring that level of awareness to really start creating the lifestyle change. Like you said, life science. Yeah, modern science is great. Yeah, all the powerful medication things came out that have helped many lives. No question about that, and surgery, all the advancement of the techniques and technologies, amazing. But now, like you said earlier, become so narrow focused. Now we gotta reshift back to the open focus. Wait a minute, this is what's great. Let's step back and see, being aware of we are just a little part of this whole entire universe, entire Earth and planet. That if you destroy them, we destroy within yourself. That's just beautiful. Yeah. So I'm sure you, clinically speaking, you've seen many patients who have many different so-called Western disease, named, and then symptoms and suffering. So when the people come up to you and they say, Dr. Pratibha, could you help me? I have this and this, Western medical terms. So number one things for you to do is, what could you help us? Okay, I come as clinic, Dr. Pratibha. I have a hormonal issues, infertility, or I have a migraine headache. So first thing, so what would you address?
Absolutely. So that's a good question. And I want to state here for all the audience and who are listening or watching that Ayurveda is still not licensed in the United States. So, yes, I do a lot of consultations, but I'm very careful about communicating this. And I try to work with the primary care providers, whether it's a nurse practitioner or the doctor themselves. So that's something I want to, of course, as a disclaimer, I just want to mention there that Ayurveda is not licensed even as of today. Uh, having said that, my background is I have an MD in Ayurveda, and back in India, I was with the Ayush Ministry. I was a chief medical officer. So, good part of my professional life, I have been a licensed clinician back in India. So, let me just give as an example of what I would do in India, for example, is that I would see the medical encounter is not very different from a scene of a crime. Okay, when there is a crime, there is a detective that goes and that starts to gather information. Okay, what crime has occurred, how did it occur, and who or what were the culprits in this crime. And that is a very skillful task. If the detective is not skilled, they will find a knife next to the murdered person or injured person, and they might just make a quick conclusion. The knife is the cause of the injury, right? But if it is a if it's an experienced detective and a trained and skilled detective, they will first gather all the information before making a conclusion. Correct? That's exactly what a good medical encounter entails. Is gathering all the information with a completely neutral mind and completely objective mind where you're not putting two and two together prematurely. So I have very detailed forms, for example, in my consult, where one set of form is dedicated to body typing. Another form takes all details about past medical history, current medical history, family medical history, social medical history, reproductive history, blah, 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 blah. And there is a section in my form that is titled Life Story. So I like to hear everything about the person. How were they born? Were they premature? Were they full term, vaginal, cesarean, breastfed, not breastfed? All of that, childhood illnesses, blah, blah, blah. So it's a very detailed intake. And then I also have a typical day in life form where I like to hear everything about when do you wake up, when do you sleep, what is your breakfast, snacks, is that. So very structured form. So that is the information gathering. So when anybody comes with any illness, because Ayurveda is not just this disease and that medicine. Ayurveda, where the therapeutics are concerned, let's leave the life science on one side. Where the medical therapeutics are concerned, Ayurveda has such robust principles that they can be applied to any disease, even the modern illnesses, the illnesses of modern times, like the 80 plus autoimmune diseases, for example, or so many, gut diseases that we are seeing, or neurological diseases, or something that is particular to a particular area, like Lyme's disease. It's not that you see Lyme disease in Ayurveda texts, but Ayurvedic principles can be applied to any disease. So I would do this intake thoroughly. Intake is a very, very important time. So I'm very thorough with that. I spend a lot of time in taking a proper intake. And then I put together the storyboard, the pieces of the puzzles, the clues. Okay. Yes. Yes. And then you get the proper, this is the root cause, and I'll give you an example. So for example, hypothyroidism is becoming very common these days, and I've had very good success with hypothyroidism, even the autoimmune one, the Hashimoto's. And that success I attribute to the thorough intake that I do, and which in which usually the primary cause is somewhere else. So this is a big strength of so many traditional forms of healing, where the root cause analysis is a huge part of the intake. Because once you do the root cause analysis, in Ayurveda, it is said in the text that the first step of treatment is removing the causative factor. Nidana parivarjanam. It is written in Sanskrit. So, unless you remove the causative factor, so what is the standard of care treatment in Western medical science for hypothyroidism? They will give some thyroid hormones, right? Replacement hormones. Now, I want to talk a little bit about this just so that, this sort of example is clear that in hypothyroidism, the standard of care is to give some hormone supplements, right? Externally. You don't have enough T3, T4, take some levothyroxine or something, right? Now, the chain of command in thyroid hormone production is what gives command to thyroid gland? Pituitary. But what gives command to pituitary? Hypothalamus. Now, you see who is the boss. And you're talking to an employee, you're talking to thyroid. Why aren't you talking to the hypothalamus? And what affects the hypothalamus? Stress, lifestyle, bad choices, bad food choices. It's so interesting. Why are you not addressing that? And you know what happens when you start giving hormones, supplementing out externally? This chain of command is now breaking because the biofeedback is not working. So your body is not only, root cause was not fixed, but now you're also weakening the biofeedback natural mechanism that's there in the body, because now you're every day giving externally something that the body needs to be producing. So now the thyroid gland becomes weaker further and further because it's not getting the command from the boss that you produce you know thyroid hormones, the T3, T4. So now it is like, it's coming every day from somewhere else, I don't know. So I don't need to work anymore. So it becomes less and less productive. So it's a double whammy. First of all, your root cause analysis did not get fixed, you're still doing the same things, same stress, no stress management, or poor stress management, or bad lifestyle choices, or bad food, bad sleep, etc. And on the other hand, now you're getting the external supply. So your thyroid gland is now, shutting off or becoming weaker. So it does not sound like a smart way to go about managing hypothyroidism. Makes sense? And this is just an example of how most of the diseases are managed. There is no root cause analysis, there is no root cause fixing. And another very important thing that our traditional healing modalities bring to the table is what we call capacity building. Capacity building does not happen with Western medicine. So, Western medicine has its strengths. I always say we should have an integrative approach, which is probably the way medicine is going to be offered in the future, and hopefully so. So for all acute conditions, you can, try and get stabilized with Western medicine. But for everything else, chronic. The minute you say chronic, they're all lifestyle diseases. A lot of education is required, a lot of information dissemination is required, and a lot of supportive, resources are required to help the humanity with simple free things. Now, the culture has become that everybody is looking for a magic pill. I will not sleep on time, I will drink alcohol, I will not manage my stress, but I will keep looking for that magic pill which I can take and I will be fine. It doesn't work like that. Our body is a function of our choices. And to some extent, we need to contribute to that process. We cannot expect an external magical pill to go in and fix everything if we are not sleeping well, if we are not eating well, if we are not doing our activities in the most suitable manner. So, sorry, a long answer to the.
No, I think you really well addressed what we really wanted to hear. I think our audience, I think they got the point. Number one things, right? That really root cause. You don't have to address. Number was being the best detective to gather the information. So it means that awareness. Each individually. Yeah, doctor can do it. The practitioner can start gathering. That's great. We can rely on that person who has that level of expertise, understanding, but also as the patients, as individually, they have to start gathering more information, more data to really understand what this is all about, not just on your body, like you said. It is this whole, what are we doing to the environment? What are we doing to the planet? What are we doing to the community, the society? So that, interconnectedness, not the disconnectedness, this is where that shift start happening, isn't it?
I'm so happy you're using those words because those are my pet words these days.
I love it. I love it.
And in the it the one of the examples that might help is that uh, cleaning our house and throwing the trash outside um, means that trash is going to come back inside the house at some point, right? So, and here I want to just touch upon something else that a lot of people are not aware. Okay. So, we all know that the use of pharmaceuticals has increased manyfold over the past few decades. Now, we are always thinking about, in a tunnel vision, my career, my, social life, this, that. What's happening on this side, what are we leaving behind us as the consequence of the way we are living, is something we never stop to think. So medicines do expire. You stop taking some medication sometimes. What do you do with that medication? A lot of people don't know how to dispose it properly. They will flush it thinking it's gone out of my house, this is the trash that's going out, right? But it's going to come back in your water supply, which is happening. There is a lot of increasing pharmaceuticals in our water supply. Does it make sense? I mean, this is one area we're not even thinking about, right? We're talking about diet, food, lifestyle. What about water? All the trash that you think it's outside my house. No, dear, it's going to come back. You have to really, with attention, with information, with proper education, you should know how to take care of that trash, because these are the trashes of the modern ways of living. And you can't just put them somewhere and think they will remain in a pocket. They will come back. They are going into the soil, they are going into the air, they are going into the water. This is another thing, we are like mindlessly throwing chemicals and aerosols everywhere, such strong cleaners. I don't bring anything. Excuse me, if it's an aerosol and it's convenient, you're also breathing it. You're breathing it. It remains in the air for a long time because it's, small particles, small particulate matter. It's getting in, and it is supposed to be harsh chemicals. So, in the name of convenience, I can go on and on. The free flowing salt. When I was younger, salt used to be irregular clumps and like it used to be like rock salt, like pieces of salt, and it was not white at all. It used to be like little gray or brown, and I remember sometimes it would get soggy and clumpy, yes, but it was real salt. And now we see the free flowing white salt. We have bleached everything. We treat everything. We don't eat molasses, we eat white sugar. Everything is treated and processed for our visual pleasure. All vegetables are perfect and sweet. And now the people who are more informed will go and find the ugly vegetables and they will pay more for it, the irregular, real, vegetables and fruits. So it's just gone out of hand. It's like a monster that's gone out of hand for the sake of our, convenience, disconnected living.
Disconnect with. Yes, I think you really kind of hit all the point there. I think people start getting more aware that really the medicine to be have to be life science, really way of living, way of how much are we aware, what are we doing to your body, but we not necessarily to environment, that connection, the ecosystem we're coexisting really any of the disease that we can name any type of Western medical disease, hypothyroid or autoimmune cancer, whatever it is. Yeah, we get that. Yeah, you're suffering. However, why you got there, the life story, there's always have to be story behind them. You gotta decode those life story. Then we're gonna start fixing the root cause. Okay, get rid of the root cause, and then heal the part of those other area of the body.
Exactly, exactly. And I think convenience is the part that's killing everything. People don't want to take the trouble to think about it. And when we talk about interconnectedness, it's also interpersonal interconnectedness that's very dry and harsh right now. Like we are not patient, we are not kind, we are not compassionate. It's very, very harsh and rough type of energy that is there on a societal level. So all of that impacts our, we are much focused on our physical body, but as per the Vedas, which are the bodies of knowledge in the East, and Ayurveda, we have five layers to our existence, five dimensions, Only one of the dimension is the physical body. The rest is, mind, mental body, emotional body, knowledge body, spiritual body. We don't talk about those bodies, and those bodies then become depleted and then they affect the physical body. And we think, where did this come from? That's because the rest of your, dimensions of your being are being pained, are being depleted, are being damaged, or imbalanced. So,
Imbalance, yes. I think you had so many great points. Okay, so now if we gather all the wisdom you share with us, if you give us just three steps, number one, we start here doing this today. Second, third, if you give us a three tip to summarize, what would you say, Dr. Pratibha?
all right, let's see. That will be interesting. Okay, I think the first thing I would like to say is schedule some doing nothing time on your calendar, like half hour at 9 a.m. or 11 a.m. or 1 p.m., whatever works for you. That is the first thing I would like to say. It may appear to be, what does this mean? But schedule that 30-minute, 40-minute, 1 hour, if possible, daily or once every other day or 2 to 3 times in a week, whatever you can practically manage. In that 1 hour, don't do anything. Just sit with yourself. And over a period of time, that will lead to introspection, reflection, and that will wake up a lot of wisdom within you. So that is the first thing, and that is a very um, unheard of thing. I don't know if anybody else says that, but I say that a lot. That schedule a do nothing time in your calendar. Number one. Number two, breathe. People are not breathing, so uh, there is something called belly breathing or diaphragmatic breathing, whatever you might call it. But with the inhalation, actually feeling your diaphragm going down and your belly coming out. So, with the inhalation, diaphragm going down, belly coming out. So, belly out with the inhalation, which means diaphragm has gone down and lungs have fully expanded. And then breathing out and the belly coming in and the diaphragm going out so that there is complete expulsion of the CO2. This is a very simple thing anybody can do anywhere, anytime. Doesn't take time, doesn't take effort, doesn't take any means or resources. Oh, I don't have this, I forgot this. Do it anyway, even during a meeting, because a good chunk of our population are just breathing shallow. And that's leading to increasing cortisol levels and all the negative hormones being in the body for longer durations of time. And then third thing, I mean, there's so many things, but Dr. Jun has asked me to do only three, is if, especially in the context of West, if people can stop drinking iced water, especially with their meals, especially when they go out to eat in the restaurants, stop drinking iced water. That's killing your metabolism. So these three things I feel are very simple and anybody can do it. You don't have to go and buy a gadget or something, an herb or something. It's free. You can do it anywhere. But these three things, if you do, you can start to feel some shift in the body. And rest, the body is such an amazing, amazing creation that, systems like Ayurveda just help to untap that wisdom. You're able to see the wisdom that's inside you already because we are born with that innate wisdom of what is good for us, what is aligned, what keeps us in sync with our environment, our weather, our seasons, our fellow human beings. So just doing these three things hopefully will help to start untapping that wisdom.
Beautiful. Wow. There's Thank you so much. That is amazing. So I think we will all appreciate always the simple. It can do anywhere. It doesn't cost you anything, right? This is where people are so discouraged. Oh, if I have this gadget, if I do this technology, if I do that, I can feel better. No, no, no. You just that simple steps, that shift, like you said, shift towards the happening. We have innate wisdom. We got most amazing software computers within ourselves. We got to utilize it, maximize that effect, isn't
Yes,
it?
yes, exactly, exactly.
So, everybody, Dr. Pratibha have a many, many more wisdom. Maybe she says just the three. I can't do that because I have 100. So I'm sure she have all the things to share with us, but please come to quantumdecoders.com/can Conscious Awakening Network. That's the abbreviation. Dr. Pratibha, all the episodes, the information, the knowledge, and wisdom in the content we have in the website. So really, thank you so much, Dr. Pratibha.
Thank you, Dr. Jun, for having me. And if anybody wants to know more about me, my website is www.myayurved.org.
It will keep put the information in the CAN network, and so everybody can know who you are, where you can reach all the information. So
Got it. Thank you so much for having me. This was a pleasure.